explanation they can come up with right now for this discrepancy is perhaps the fact that a lot of African-American voters in North Carolina are typically used to voting early and in person. So many of them are voting for the first time via mail-in ballot.
All right. And we're live.
It is State Board of Election officials. They are upset that there are these calls, this racial discrepancy.
Never done one of these live streams before. I believe I got it all set up properly. And hopefully so it'll save after the fact for anyone who misses this shit.
We're finding it before Election Day. North Carolina does give folks a chance to fix their ballot. Isn't that correct, Morgan?
That is correct.
I'm going to try to find out how to
And
share this link around.
North Carolina is one of the states that allows people to correct their ballots, but of course they have to be notified by their county board that there was in fact a mistake, and they have to be able to correct it before the election, Chuck.
And it turns out sometimes we have to do the notifying, and it probably wasn't intended for us to be the notifiers. Anyway, Morgan Radford on the ground for us in North Carolina.
Aha.
Thank you, Morgan, and I'm sure that voter thanks you now too. Our panel is back right after the break with what they'll be looking for when President Trump and Joe Biden face off. Just a few minutes. But first, this debate moment from 2004 when John Kerry took George W. Bush to task over his response to the war on terror.
In answer to your question about Iraq and sending people into Iraq, he just said, the enemy attacked us. Saddam Hussein didn't attack us. Osama bin Laden attacked us. Al-Qaeda attacked us.
There we go. You just now got the notification because I just now started. But welcome. Game's about to get started, folks. Are you pumped? It's the patriotic Super Bowl.
This is a situation where the state continues to struggle to expand its
If patriotism means a face-off between some ugly-ass wildebeests.
To come out in full force and support their community because they feel like they're not getting that support from the Portland police.
I think you know why. Mama Joe would make them look like fucking buffoons. No, they won't need any help with that. Who's least sucky is whatever ones ain't gonna win.
The ticket to the middle class is a thing that middle class families have to stress about and
I believe when this is posted after the fact, people will be able to see the comments that I'm responding to in the live feed.
We've got some breaking news.
Well, we actually saw a large convoy of the National Guard come through here.
It's news made for your streaming world. Live weekdays starting at 6 a.m. Eastern.
This is really strange for me because the live stream page is like 30 seconds behind the actual stream I'm looking at.
You're creating a little community school.
But I figured I'd get this kicked off early so we can pregame. Might need it.
Let's turn it over to students. How do they really feel about returning to school? What I miss is my teachers.
Oh God, Barack Obama. I don't think we need Barry back. Well, I've never done sugar cubes, so I'm gonna go with blotters.
What's your level of concern that the kids who have been told indefinitely won't be able to catch up on the ground?
Well, I ain't a fan of the ocean, so
This is going to bring about change soon and indefinitely.
that makes sense.
Do you think that police in this country are under attack? NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
The news business is dynamic and probably has never been more important. With all that we're facing,
I don't know what's worse, what we're about to see or having to listen to these fucking Neanderthals in the meantime.
Of a husband and kids who sadly are more vulnerable to police violence because of their color. A proud nerd and a representative.
I heard a comment from one of these fuckers earlier being like, talking about all of this partisan hack from Fox News. You're one to talk there, pal.
You know what? He's been doing it for 47 years. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, so he should be able to beat me. I would think. He's much more experienced.
experience. They'll give him a big shot of something and he'll go out there. He'll have a lot of energy. He'll have energy. He'll be like Superman for about 15 minutes.
Unfortunately, Leroy cannot accompany us tonight. He's busy banging some Himalayan hookers down by the subway.
I have no idea. I think this whole thing, though, is debate prep. You know, what I do is debate prep every day. I'm taking questions from you people all the time.
Subway, the sandwich shop. We ain't got a Subway in this town.
Presidential debates as we are now just a few minutes away from the start of the first of 3 scheduled showdowns. That was the sound of how President Trump has been gearing up for tonight.
I suppose we'll see, Austin.
I can hardly wait to...
They'll have them social distancing walkers.
I think everybody knows this man has a somewhat pathological tendency not to tell the truth. I've begun to prepare by going over what the president has said and the multiple lies he's told. He's a fool.
I'm gonna be getting progressively more drunk as this stream goes on, because that's the quality coverage y'all deserve.
The point is that rather than say how I'm going to do, again, watch me.
Casey Hahn, Joshua Johnson, and Michael Beschloss are back to wrap things up. Michael, I'll start with you. I think we got shorted in the last segment there with you. So, take it from the Joe Biden and the challenger perspective here. We haven't had a challenger this far ahead against an incumbent president.
I'll go ahead and get it turned up, unfortunately.
The Ross Perot thing sort of was part of it. And then I guess before that, you'd have to go back to Jimmy Carter. What do you expect to be seeing from Joe Biden tonight?
I bet Biden's nose is so strong at this point he can sniff him from 6 feet away.
A tantrum that he can't do very much about, and let people choose between these two figures. We're in a real crisis tonight. We're in a crisis of democracy. We're in a crisis of a pandemic that has taken 200,000 lives. The Trump people are so worried about that they reportedly asked...
Make Orwell fiction again.
Not to mention that our economy is also in very bad shape. Do people watching this...
I almost wore my MAGA hat for the occasion, but I'd feel disgusting.
Next president who is not up to doing this job. The other thing, Chuck, is, we will see things tonight probably that we have never seen before, but historically, incumbent presidents usually lose a first debate. That was true of Carter, Reagan, the 2 Bushes, even Obama, who is known for being this great orator. So the odds are probably against Donald Trump being able to use this to his own advantage.
I wonder if he'll talk about his hairy legs again.
One of the developments that I'm most surprised about is that there is no new virus relief, and we're at the first presidential debate. It's not to say it might not happen before Election Day, and I know this is your...
Yeah, where's my stimulus check? I need some weapons and ammunition, goddammit.
It's an unknown about whether the federal government is going to help bail a lot of people out on this virus.
Unknown, and we're just a day or so, 2 days away from thousands of airline workers losing the help that's kept them afloat. Walt Disney Company just announced they're laying off 28,000 people because we have failed to grapple with this virus. I mean, the numbers are just stunning, and people are really hurting, and it is pretty stunning that we have let this kind of fall to the back burner.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is ultimately Congress's responsibility. I mean, they have failed to keep it on the front burner.
He probably has to struggle to decide every morning whether to put old man candy in there or little child candy.
And I think that surprised a lot of us who, have been reporting on this all the way along, that both sides are basically still $1 trillion apart from each other. But I think that reflects the fact that, Democrats are coming under a lot of pressure to get something done here. Obviously, President Trump is running for re-election, but again, the closer we get to Election Day, the harder it is for either side to make a deal with the other. I mean, I think the other question here is the economy really hurting so badly that there is absolutely no alternative? I think we may be headed in that direction.
Fuck off.
Joshua Johnson, this has been the part of that I've just been...
Our economy's about to collapse. Who gives a fuck? Just give me the money.
This is the issue that both candidates will get punished on if they're not talking about virus relief, economic relief, and relief on the healthcare front. If they're not focused on it, because I think a lot of people actually are tuning in for some answers on this.
Absolutely. I think that COVID-19 is the issue that should dominate significantly the policy parts of this debate because it crosses over into so many other things. I mean,
you're probably right.
The economy is listed as a separate issue from COVID-19. As you just heard from Casey, it's all locked together. I mean, regarding those 28,000 Disney layoffs, the company says
he probably thinks he is a church lady
because it doesn't have guidance on COVID-19. One other issue I'm interested in hearing, in particular, is this section called race and violence in our cities and the way that that will be depicted.
Didn't you hear he's Joe Biden's husband?
Peripheral to Black Lives Matter protests. It's worth noting that in the early Black Lives Matter protests about Michael Brown's killing in Ferguson, Missouri, you're no longer participating in protected First Amendment protests. So the framing of that is going to be interesting in terms of whether or not the candidates have a plan to deal with that, and whether or not these two old, wealthy white men are able to speak to a growingly diverse, youthful nation about the future of race and equity and diversity.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of genius comments about race from the two of them. Maybe he'll bring up his anecdote about old corn pop again.
On being puerile and insulting and harsh, Joe Biden might just be well served to let that pass and then look directly in the eyes of the American people and say, hey, forget about all that. I see you. I see what's going on, and here's what's happening tonight. That might change the calculus for who we consider the winner of the debate. But with Donald Trump in the White House, I think the calculus for who wins and loses these days is kind of changing every day.
It does seem to, and I do think it's a good point. I mean, certainly that empathy.
It's about time for y'all to shut the fuck up and get the show on the road.
We're running short on time here. I want to give you the last word.
Oh, thank God.
The sweep and history of this. You mentioned we are facing an unprecedented crisis. What's on the line tonight for our
One down. One down on camera, anyway. God damn.
Not come up with a national plan to deal with it. People are suffering in this economy in a way that is different from any time ever before. And the other thing, if I might say, Casey, I don't know whose idea it was to put the words race and violence in the cities in the same sentence as an issue to be discussed tonight.
They should start their own reality show together.
Because those are two subjects that should not be linked, and it's almost
my nursing home life
comment in itself.
No, I think that's a fair point, and certainly there was some criticism of that. I mean, the reality here is that race.
Oh, I guarantee he's got his staff at the White House working full time on that.
Grappling with in such, from the very founding documents of
that fuck probably spends half his time in bed anyway watching Fox and Friends.
Very good point. I mean, so much on the line here. I was
tweeting about Little Rocket Man.
The Atlantic story today about what could be on the line here tonight in terms of how this election ultimately ends. Joshua Johnson, Michael Beschloss, thank you both so much. Thanks so much for being with us this hour. NBC News coverage of the first 2020 presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden continues
NBC
right now.
News, the presidential debate.
All right, boys.
And Savannah Guthrie.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first 2020 presidential debate. Donald Trump and Joe Biden face-to-face with Election Day just 35 days away and voting already underway by mail or in person in 30 states.
And the stage is set. It's in Cleveland, Ohio tonight. The co-host, Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. The moderator is Fox.
They mentioned the great state of Ohio. I don't know.
They're high.
I think they've got a different Ohio in mind.
The country on the line tonight, Lester.
There's a lot of ground to cover, Savannah, over the next 90 minutes. The candidates' records, including President Trump's tax returns, the Supreme Court vacancy, the pandemic, the economy, racism, and civil unrest.
I think that's probably a compliment on his part. Shit.
Need a little longer than an hour and a half, but the debate commission has set the rules, has determined, by the way, that the moderator is not responsible for fact-checking the candidates tonight. But our team is standing by to do just that and to offer expert insight and analysis. And for live fact-checking during the debate, you can go to NBCnews.com. So let's get started. We'll go first to Chief White House correspondent Hallie Jackson, who is inside the debate hall. Hallie, what are you hearing from both camps?
A couple of things, Savannah. You have two very different candidates and two very different kinds of debate prep that has been happening. Sources close to President Trump, for example, say he's really been doing more informal Q&As with his top advisors.
Very different.
On the Biden side, people
he said he did no prepping whatsoever.
He's gotten more intense as he has done issue by issue practice sessions, essentially.
You know what? Good. That'll make it more entertaining.
President Trump to try to turn this race into less of a referendum and more of a choice. He will likely go on attack, probably, according to aides who have been previewing this, by getting personal with Joe Biden, potentially going after his son, Hunter Biden.
What's everyone's predictions or hopes for this?
He wants to keep the focus on that, and you won't see a lot of live fact-checking from him unless something is particularly egregious, Savannah.
All right, also with us is NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd. Chuck, what will you be watching for this evening?
Well, I'll tell you, it's an unusual situation when the front runner is the challenger and the person that has to upend the race is actually the incumbent, and that's Donald Trump here. I'm curious to see, does President Trump, he's been telegraphing that he's going to get personal and basically do whatever it takes to shake up Joe Biden. But does he actually tell voters what he wants to do for a second term? It's something he hasn't done. For Joe Biden, it's obvious. Is he able to parry away Trump's attacks without chasing him down rabbit holes?
We're about 30 seconds away. Senior Washington correspondent Andrea Mitchell is
Here
there.
we
The
go.
moderator is in place. This race has been remarkably stable, but a debate always has the opportunity to upend things, Andrea.
Absolutely, and Donald Trump goes into this debate farther behind in national polls than any incumbent since George Herbert Walker Bush in '92 against Bill Clinton, but that was a three-way race with Ross Perot. Still, he's got a lot to prove, but I would not bet on any conventional wisdom tonight. He is a performer, and of course, we have to see how he performs tonight.
All right, Andrea, thanks. And with the debate about to begin, we want to go to Cleveland and moderator Chris Wallace. Here he is.
It's alright, I'm sure Biden took his meds. The camera's on, pal.
Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15
I feel you, Robert. I'm here for the entertainment. Shit, I would have paid for this shit.
First question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates.
Yeah, I buy that.
This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic.
Why don't y'all take a seat?
Security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates.
We have the chat log.
Agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you,
don't worry, we can do all that at home.
To say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
I love how they still call him Vice President. Like, motherfucker, you've been out of office for 4 years. He looked like he already forgot who Trump was.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court.
Of course it is.
Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court.
Rest in hell.
The Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you.
I wonder why they would think that.
Right and make the argument you make, and your opponent wrong, and where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we want.
God damn, he looks so orange.
Consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and We have a phenomenal nominee.
I know that's like the least original joke about this cunt, but look at him. I think he got a spray tan like in the van outside before he came in.
People from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time. Even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. I feel that we have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor.
I bet his mom will put it on the fridge.
And we just won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you,
I'm sure.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is. Because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of...
Yeah, probably because you fucked it up hardcore.
Which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They're able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is
being a child sniffer of pre-existing condition, I think that might be why he's so worried.
100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
Oh, shit. I wondered how long it takes before that happened, too. Guess what? You're both fucking socialists.
He knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any, and one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can, They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants
Show us the mushroom.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now. I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic Party is what I, in fact, approved of.
If you are the Democratic Party, we're in even worse shape than I thought.
It's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID.
Oh, of course that was going to break out. Didn't waste any time with that either.
You've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me about this.
I'm happy to talk about.
And if you were here, it wouldn't be 200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You didn't want me to ban China.
The boxing match has begun.
All right, gentlemen,
which was heavily
Mr. President,
you would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
later.
Mr. President,
you're talking about 2 million people.
Mr. President, as a moderator, we are going to talk about COVID.
Shut him up.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well, in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all.
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it in the ballot?
Because
as if Trump hasn't had like 20 abortions.
In the court. Well, there's nothing happening there.
Donald,
and you don't know her view on Roe v. Wade. You don't know her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen.
Oh my God.
On health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election
like a baby
in which
tooth.
The Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
That probably is why he called himself the Democratic Party.
Question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
comprehensive plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare. Chris, that was the worst part of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people.
I'm the moderator of this debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing
In executive water, you catch that subtitle. I haven't even been paying attention to that shit.
Healthcare plan.
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. Let me just tell you something. There's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big,
this is big stuff. Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President.
Yeah, be thankful, you orange slut.
Would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that is going to end private insurance. It is not. Well, if I can ask you the question, it will end.
What your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It's not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you agreed
Number two.
with Bernie Sanders, the far left, on the manifesto, we
you,
call it.
manifesto.
That gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
are you saying
I'm not
you
going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him I'm here standing for you.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost everything.
Pocahontas!
Super Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
You're
make sure.
the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class in the first.
Probably under both of the podiums.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that.
You
picked the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Now you're disavowing it.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you
this
socialized,
clown's
they
doing?
call it Medicare.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
I'll tell you what. He is not for any help for
I can't believe some people are missing this.
Because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
you better
three.
health care at a much lower price. Because
And by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize
is
if you're
no
both
good,
speaking at
Joe.
the
It's
same
no good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed we shouldn't even call it Obamacare. But I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well. And I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get
The best thing about this is these are the two most, like, entitled and sensitive motherfuckers that they could have picked to debate in this shit.
Of course we do. He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none. Like almost everything else he talks about.
I feel you, John.
He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, I have one final question.
Careful, if you say Mama Joe, Biden might think you're talking about him.
If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel.
You are now in voting, Bikini Bottom.
In fact, let people know you're senators. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that question?
The question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Who is on your list?
This is so
I think
this is so unprecedented.
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
The people understand, Jeff. 47 years, you've done nothing. They understand.
The second subject.
This is amazing.
Which is an awfully serious subject. So, Let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7
Yeah,
cases
good luck.
of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people.
Oh, God.
died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal.
Oh.
The question for both of you is, based on what you have said,
This is the new normal, folks. Just another several fucking years. Don't worry.
why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths.
I think you'll notice he had to take notes on that with all the times he's fucked up numbers before.
In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no...
I'm glad you found your testicle.
He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly...
Fill the cum dumpster, Buster.
He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it.
Now that would really add to the live stream.
Don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had...
Well, he did refuse his drug test, so I reckon there may be some chemicals at play here.
Asked Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. Wrong. I laid out back in exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and
That's
give
my
people
thoughts.
the help they need to keep their businesses open. Open schools, it cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Would have listened to 2 minutes, sir. If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened.
It's the Chinese virus.
China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand.
Fair.
If you look at what he's done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic. Because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that.
I'll be honest, I'm really disappointed we don't have the audience reactions.
We got the masks.
They always tell them, hey, everybody keep quiet, because they never do. What the fuck the moderator's gonna do?
People are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say...
Fake news, there it is!
But it's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1 disaster. Your own chief of staff said it was a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was no we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down.
He shut down? Oh, come on.
How many of you got up this
Come on.
and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse hold.
Where's Bashir? Let's get that fucker in here. Goddamn son of a bitch.
And by the way, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the
oh shit, folks! I forgot my mask. I hope you don't catch COVID.
We don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't trust Johnson, Pfizer.
By the way, gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words. But
I do, Reb. Right after they were ran over by a semi, they tragically died of COVID.
The same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call him left, I don't know what I call him.
The head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available.
Just like he said, it's a possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after
when it's
that.
Generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be delivering.
This is the same man
who all
told
set
you
up.
By Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Hey, Biden, the bleach worked, all right?
So here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company.
I tried it. Remember, it's documented.
Done by the end of the year, but the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out. If we get the vaccine, and pray God we will.
Yeah, magically the vaccine just happens to be coming in November.
You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris,
I wonder why.
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust.
She said the public health experts, quote, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by the way,
to the scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people die, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word.
Oh, shit!
Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
This is amazing.
The charge
Amazing.
was put through. I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See, we're going to get to the economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay. When it comes to how the virus has been handled,
Oh my God, that was amazing.
You have taken very different approaches. It's going to affect how the
He needs to bring it more of Sleepy Joe comments. I want to see more of the personal jabs. That's what I'm here for.
Several of those reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability.
Yeah, I think Biden took some adrenochrome,
PPE as well.
hit up Podesta before he came in here.
You have to provide them
Nancy Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Nancy Pelosi.
And
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan.
And crying Chuck.
The Republicans won't meet him in the Senate, and he sits in his golf course, and well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because it's a
subject. I want to move
political
on to another subject.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates.
Yeah, I've got my mask now.
No, I think masks are okay. You have to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I'll put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks.
The way to let him is just to fucking let him, you dickhead.
Just wore masks between now. If everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
No serious. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
I want to ask you, we got a little bit more than a minute left in this
masks
segment.
Are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding a large...
Boys, we still got another hour of this. I am so into this.
Outside, yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller...
I bet the meds wear off by the end.
Nobody will show up.
People with...
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rally.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean, a great job as a president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about
we have a lot of people. Sir? Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay. By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social.
Yes, you can donate to Bob.
Basically encourage him not to.
I've got
He's a fool on this.
If you could
a PayPal.
You would have done the same.
I don't even remember the link, but it's in the description of my shit.
Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy
Hold on.
is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped
There we
recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American
Why,
people
thank
in
you,
terms of
Nugget.
economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't brought up the taxes yet.
We closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you
Another
start
down.
shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of the Democrat-run states where they have these.
I'll finally be drunk enough for this by the time it's fucking over.
They don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can.
Unfortunately, my bladder isn't closed. It's open for business, so I will return in a moment.
When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just
the wrong statement.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who have been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And
yeah, no shit. The bars, that's where COVID likes to hang out. I don't blame it. It's my favorite place, too.
With a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the
I need some snacks of this shit, too.
Fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely.
I ain't healthy when I can't eat either, Biden.
Give the teachers and school students masks And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to the...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever...
Sorry, anyone want them?
New York. People
You're here if you do.
Open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report.
All right, I'll send you a Pringle.
The year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid...
As long as they're waving a little American flag while they suck the dick, then I'm all for that.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750?
The idea of there being an anarchist party of America, this sounds
dollars in taxes, millions of
counterproductive.
Income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers that I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. What I want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have.
Personally, I'd prefer to vote with this. Don't let YouTube see.
And we have a I built a great
I'm asking you a specific question, which is...
Let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President, I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid?
Hey, we got Keith in here.
In 2016 and 2017.
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they the laws, and that's what it is. He passed
taxation is theft.
He gave us all these privileges.
You stupid moderator, didn't you know that?
Tax credits. We built a building.
Who the fuck is dumb enough to pay more taxes than they have to?
Which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look,
I really didn't think he was going to work that one in his favor.
Put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him. He says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code, and he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts, and I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over in the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
you're the worst president America has ever had. Come on.
Oh man!
I've done more in.
Listen, I may hate this fucking Cheeto fucker, but worse than Andrew Jackson, worse than FDR. Come on, bro.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about...
Now, most hated, maybe.
Because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American, that we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like.
I don't want to hear shit about how much the federal government spends from a fucking Democrat. Come on, bud.
By a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to
You're talking about taxes, not spending. Where do you think the spending comes from, you dick?
91 companies, in the Fortune 500, who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
No, Kool-Aid Man, I do not have a Twitch. I have no idea how that shit works.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that.
I guess probably the same as this.
Your free market approach, lower taxes.
This is the first time I've ever done this shit.
Correct?
Not lower tax for American people.
But let me, but
We're gonna go
Obama's
brrr.
economy booming, it turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about.
No, y'all fucked that up too.
Economy. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since.
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said you would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would be a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. My standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry. We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
and they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so
fuck bailouts.
He's actually done. He's done very little. His trade
corporation fails. Fucking let him.
About these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we
just don't be the reason they fucking fail.
Trade deficit in Mexico.
Lunch. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he.
Oh God, yeah. Bring up Israel. That'd be interesting.
Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow...
Thank you, Mattia, or Mattia, or however you pronounce that.
What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
This is in Cleveland, Ohio.
Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited.
I'll bail your balls out, Keith.
By the way...
Well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got $3.5 million.
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President,
no shit.
Let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
the media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank. by everyone. It's accredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
So let me ask you this.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
People under,
He got $3.5 million from Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh, really?
I did it
I'd like to
honorably.
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't do a good job. With you,
well, it's hard to get anywhere.
You're fired.
Excuse me.
Hey, let me just tell you.
No. Mr. President.
$3.5 million, Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million from Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's already.
My family lost a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's
Mr. President. Every single one of them lost.
This is not about my family or his family. It's about your family. The American people. That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
All right, that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
Vice
President, no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important question.
No,
he stood up.
The answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that
get rid
is
of
absolutely not true.
You're going to have
true,
gentlemen.
That is true.
I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to me, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment...
Listen, you both love Russia and Ukraine. It's all right. The polyamory should not be judged.
I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting.
Well, that's all right, but he does plenty.
Well, less than you, sir, less than
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very few
here we
people
go.
on both sides,
Here we go.
was what directly
This was a bullshit thing.
to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president.
Oh, never mind. They're going a different route with this than I thought.
Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality.
Talk about corn pop.
It's about.
It's a perfect segue.
And we have
Trust me.
walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America.
Or the busing laws.
We've never accomplished it, but we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing an anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No,
He wasn't talking about them, though, Joe.
It is
now, second point.
That was a bullshit fucking. That was bullshit. That's what I was thinking they were originally going to talk about. But of course, Biden went there.
The White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold.
Our supreme leader was not wrong in that moment.
The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is
my damaged eyeball is under the eye patch.
Try to generate racist hate.
And an emergency baggie of cocaine.
This is a man who, in fact,
you never know when you'll need it.
African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So, President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent?
I have an idea to make a portable EMT. That'd make a good weapon Wednesday.
Super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it.
I don't even know if that's legal, so I probably shouldn't have said that. You don't need to know what country I'm in.
And I'm letting people out of jail now.
Shit.
You have treated the
Ignore that.
American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990s, and that's why if you look at the polls,
the crime bill,
than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You called them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you
no, that was Clinton. That wasn't Biden.
As the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals. Total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have
Ohio.
The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because, you know what? If they
you lose me there.
We would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in
fucking Chaz. I was so boned about that. The Boogaloo boys were going to come in on July 4th, but
run by Democrats. There are many
guess the cops saw that. They were like, fuck, we don't want to deal with that shit show, and went ahead and finally did something.
Anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country...
I bet they would have live streamed it. That would have been just as fun as this.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury Breonna Taylor case, decided not to charge any of the police with homicide. You said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this
country. Tell that to Kamala Harris, you piece of shit.
In law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast
guess she didn't get the memo either.
Good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day.
Exactly. I'm in Snowden's apartment.
There are some bad apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House. Well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out.
I still got the flamethrower.
So we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd.
I still use this bitch.
Cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it.
I'm pretty sure it's out of fuel right now, but testing it in here probably isn't the best idea.
Never appropriate.
I might cut this stream short.
Violence is never appropriate.
Right, what is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest? No, it's not. But you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal
Law and Order, a fantastic TV show, big fan.
Training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of
I'm pretty sure it is out of fuel. I mean, to be honest, I probably could test it and it'd be fine, but I last used it on the 4th of July and Well,
all over the
I got
place,
a little
and
excited about
so
it
does everybody
and
else.
drained the
You
fucker.
know, oh, it's totally
Racial sensitivity training.
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of
Yeah,
universal.
no.
And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were.
It ain't spraying properly anymore.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
That is
We have to
unfortunate.
go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me who grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together.
Apparently it's out of Zippo fuel also, so that's just double the disappointment.
And we can defeat racism.
Vice President, President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I mean, any fucking Nerf gun works. That's just there to provide distance and make it easier to handle.
Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
Violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead, say it.
You ask a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
Let him.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're down. Mr. President, you're going to Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Since we had trouble with Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides
Oh no,
in America.
there's less than half an hour left.
Particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where
Is Tulsa Republican
people
run?
were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our suburbs would be gone.
Yeah, I do need to do some more flag burning videos.
Problems like
he wouldn't know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Thank you, Nag Turkey.
This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID.
His fucking commies.
Suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though, and in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support...
Hopefully getting rid of it.
If I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for
defunding
community control of policing?
Look, What I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use
a 9/11 call.
Talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be...
It'll be... The channel will be a year old in about 11...
He has no law in
11 days.
Almost nothing. Look, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
Think about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported you.
I've got a good year anniversary video planned.
To another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes...
I got assaulted by a line of 50 fucking riot cops because of some crackhead bitch fighting with someone by sitting on their car. I thought I was gonna get fucking tear gas. Goddamn.
It takes that you stop the days and months of violence in Portland.
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear.
I hold office in a nursing home in Vermont.
Should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of a young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3 days, Portland wouldn't do anything. I sent in the U.S. Marshals, they took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way,
I do need to post some more content on the OnlyFans.
Riots and chaos and violence.
Me and Leroy were gonna get juicy.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the...
No, that bitch.
That's what he just keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized...
You have to answer his statement.
You have
His
repeatedly...
statement? Wait,
you have
just one
no,
second.
you've been talking back
He made
and
a
forth.
statement. I would love to end it.
You know, if you want to switch seats...
We would very quickly.
We can do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to...
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, send in the National Guard, bud. See what happens then. I mean, you'll probably get the little pussy-ass commies.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland? Are you prepared to specifically do it?
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white
supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
I tell you what, I may not like the Proud Boys, but they're rarely the ones starting shit from what I've seen.
Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his
FBI.
Oh, come on, Biden. Come on. I mean, I guess you can't alienate the left too much. They're an idea. They ain't an organization.
I have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous radical
Gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally...
Well, they did bring up Chaz earlier.
But Vice President Biden, you like
He mentioned how the police finally went in and got them out of there.
The alternative, and in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records,
yeah, where's the bald-headed Edward Norton when you need him to make an appearance? Give him a barometer there.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole
I mean, you did get impeached, so I don't know if you can call the impeachment a hoax. Not that it meant shit.
Administration that's done what I've done.
That's what I thought was so funny. When he got impeached, everyone's like, yes, finally, he's going to be gone.
Everything was going.
No, I mean, he's still there.
People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling, and they were saying, it's time maybe, and then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other
Space Force!
A fixing of the...
I hope I can change my draft pick to the Space Force. I mean, they won't trust me flying the spaceship, so I'll probably just be like the space janitor or something.
We now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges.
Oh, yeah, dude. They're for sale fucking all over the place.
Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him...
The free market provides
judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact
no, locking down the economy definitely didn't cause the recession. Totally not.
He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way,
listen, man, I may hate Trump's guts and not like a lot of his economic decisions, but that's by far the best thing he's done.
Your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question. Go ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID.
Right.
You and the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being,
you could probably find one of them hats on Amazon.
15% less violence in America than there is today.
Dude, his skin tone don't even match his fucking hairline, like right at the edge there.
The nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being...
yeah, I reckon they probably do look like that.
My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there.
Oh shit, is he gonna bring up Vietnam?
He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow.
Yeah, I heard something about Trump calling, like, dead soldiers losers or something. I never looked into that, so I don't know if that was bullshit or if he was just being a fuckhead again.
He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions?
All right, he wasn't
I mean, I guess technically they weren't a winner.
Totally discredited. We've already been totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as a moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
$3.5 million.
As the moderator, sir, I decree.
Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay.
Oh, God, here we go.
Fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your
I'm really sad this is almost over. I may shed a tear.
Accord, you have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on.
Biden kind of looks like a sad testicle.
As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else.
And Trump's looks like one that's
you've got to have forest management.
What do you believe about the
beat a little too often.
Change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees.
I've been through a little too much cock and ball torture, you know.
Do you believe that human pollution,
we've all been there.
Gas emissions contributes to the global warming of the planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning.
Yeah, like, I mean, that ain't exactly new. Keith, you can vouch for that.
Forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major company.
Testy
It's a
besties.
forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point,
you're right, Super
you can't
Spreader.
every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
Sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he said captured soldiers were losers. I think he was, he was all pissed off at McCain at the time or something.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards?
I'm trying to catch up to some of these comments.
Create more pollution from cars.
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference, and then what would happen...
Yeah, no, Trump loves to suck off Israel's dick.
At least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
They simply
no, but it would take a lot of
rollback.
cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate
runaway
change.
chip.
I also want to ask
I don't know where it went.
a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green
Went AWOL.
jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of...
Did y'all see California wants to ban gas cars by 2035? As if there's even going to be a fucking California by then.
Says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one.
Oh, God.
Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into...
The energy is renewable, Joe. The energy is...
Making sure that we can do that. We're going
not the equipment.
100,000 charging stations. And all
how do you get the equipment, Joe?
We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take...
You know what? I think I'll just make my clothes out of solar panels.
Weatherized in a way...
Make a solar panel suit. And just... That way I can just plug it into my phone. I never need to be without charge.
There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs.
Oh, I mentioned earlier when I started the stream, Kool-Aid Man, Leroy regretfully could not be here. He's banging some Himalayan hookers over by the Subway shop.
I will join the Paris Accord because with us out...
But you know what? I think we might be having more fun than he is right now.
Talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest.
Uh-oh, his meds are wearing off.
Have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist.
I love that. That's like Trump's most common retort.
It's all true. And here's the
talking
deal.
about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion.
Oh God, yeah, the Green New Deal is fucked. Get that communist manifesto away from me.
And rebuild the building. It's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a 100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're going to
the case. All right, let me because I actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that. The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
Oh, I do remember that shit. He wanted to drop bombs on the hurricanes.
We're in a position where we can create hard, good.
Oh, that was good.
Making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble Look what's happening just in the Midwest with these.
I've never been to South America.
Entire sections and counties.
I'm not opposed to going.
Happened before.
Could probably buy some good coke.
Warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
the Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
Not my plan.
I want to rebuild every
If he
made a statement about the military.
It's not my plan. I just want to do everything in the plan.
They went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What he
not
did
true.
is he
You're done
said
in this segment.
he called the military stupid bastards.
I
He
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He said
No
that
shit, I never even heard that.
I would never say that.
No, they ain't stupid bastards. They are corrupt bastards, though.
His final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all was ranting.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but
No.
the economy about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal.
What's the economy again?
Environmental change will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
Do you support the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support that?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
it's the radical left.
I support the Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden
which
plan.
is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote.
Oh,
early.
shit.
How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do?
I think they've already found ballots thrown in the fucking trash.
The legitimate winner of this election in this final segment. Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of the
Of course, the guy that the Postal Service endorses would say
millions
that.
of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind his desk and sends his ballot to Florida. Number one. Number two.
Sorry, I thought this would be more valuable
The
information.
voting person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time. And the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote.
Yeah, show up and vote. Don't mail in your fucking vote.
Vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election.
You've got 2 fucking months to place your vote. You got no excuse not to do it in person, cunt.
That will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact
Not that it matters. Voting's a fucking scam at this point. Haven't we figured that shit out yet?
If we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country's going to look like the next 4 years.
Yeah, Dennis, that's exactly what that fucking means.
4 years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking
I'll
about
take that as a compliment, Kool-Aid
There's
Man.
been no transition from when I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the
Crooked Hillary!
There was no transition. They came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign.
That is true. Obamagate.
Even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady, they were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And
oh,
President
shit.
Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots.
I mean, fuck this guy. Well, he's right about that shit.
It's nice. On November 3rd, you're watching and you see.
Again, doesn't matter. Your vote's fucking worthless either way. We're going down the shitter.
But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over.
Well, you know what'll happen? We won't know for months. And Pelosi's going to be fucking president until we do.
They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail.
That's crazy. Ain't that crazy?
Ballots have gone out.
Like quarter?
What are you going to do about it?
More than a quarter.
Are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think, I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so, because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
they
are you
throw
going to do
them out
about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote,
but
like they used to in the old.
Millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well. This is not going to end well.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade.
They're over 90 minutes, by the way. I wonder how long they keep it going.
And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is...
They got them real heated with this shit.
By election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this. Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court and Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court will settle this, because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to.
Hello,
in fact, you can verify
it's
that's
me.
you before the ballot is thrown out. That's sufficient to be able to count the ballot, because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify. say who they voted for, say it's you, that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, when you have 80 million ballots, Senate and swamping the system, you know it can't be done, you know it can't, and already there's been fraud,
service delivers 185 million
question in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks, and we'll find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will...
That might work.
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until...
Well, I can't make any promises.
...independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common sense, I'll tell you what it means. It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a wastepaper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We can count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way,
I think actually a lot of these mail-in ballots will show, like,
since at the end of the Civil War, in effect.
show on the outside what they're registered as, but I could be wrong.
Why is it for
I'm not for certain.
Not fraudulent?
Again, I don't give a fuck. This whole thing is...
No one has established
the whole system's fucked, bro.
Fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney. They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, if you can count all of them.
And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's
I don't think Biden can count to 4.
The outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot cut.
Gentlemen, will you say that's the end of it?
Yeah, how many Republicans with smart guns?
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating.
Been an hour 40.
3 debates that you agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch.
Oh shit, I didn't even know about that.
And good night.
To be honest, that'll probably be a boring ass debate. That won't be nearly as fun as this one.
Music to your ears, you may not be alone. What could have been a low point in American political discourse, certainly in any modern debate we've seen, just took place over an hour and a half. If you showed up looking for a food fight, you got a brawl between these two men, language that we have rarely heard from candidates in a political debate.
I'm just reading your comments, catching up.
frankly, Savannah Guthrie, I'm a bit at a loss for words here to describe what we've just witnessed.
Well, maybe because I think, like so many in this
I think it is a
country,
jizz
your
napkin.
jaw just dropped. You can't pretend that this was a normal debate.
I'd be fine with Lee Harvey and both of them.
Tussle between foes. This was different. This was an all-out grudge match. It was unjustified at many times. It was cringeworthy at many times.
Have a good night, bud.
And you just, as I turned to Chuck, we can't pretend, I can't go to you, Chuck, with my normal, give me some political analysis question, because I think we need to just pause for a moment and say, that was
Dear
crazy.
God.
What was that?
It's a train wreck. But it was a train wreck of the making of one person. I mean, we know who did it. President Trump did this.
I still got a beer to finish.
He knows what to do. He bulldozed over the moderator, bulldozed over Chris Wallace, bulldozed and at times flustered Joe Biden. But I don't know if anyone wouldn't have been flustered by the president's behavior.
I'm hopping off after that.
It is.
Liquor stores almost closed.
I don't know how that helped anybody. If you were watching this as an undecided voter,
Good night, Reb.
helped at all. You just, I don't know what you learned.
Well, did you stay on the channel? I got a lot of texts from people saying I turned it off.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of those comments too, both from true outsiders.
Average watch time was only 13 minutes from fuckers. How could you only sit around for 13 minutes? I had to see this whole thing in full.
Joe Biden's campaign has been trying to make the case, essentially, that President Trump is a fraud, a bully, and has no plans.
GG.
There was one thing that seemed to get through, I think, at times, and certainly President Trump played the role of the bully quite well. The Trump campaign has been trying to paint Joe Biden as out of it and captive of the left. I think his folks are going to think that the president scored some points.
The left hates Biden.
But I'm looking at it, I think a lot of people are going to look at this and feel perhaps...
But they hate Trump more, so they'll vote for him.
Let me go to Andrea Mitchell right now. Andrea, many of the things that we talked about in the last couple of
Biden never took his drug test. I'm convinced he was on some shit.
Joe Biden
There wasn't nearly enough stuttering.
on a number of occasions, including when Vice President Biden was talking about his son Beau.
He did still do the main thing like he does, where he'll just look sad anytime somebody contests him. Like, how dare ye? And Trump just looked pissed off the entire time.
But frankly, the format, and that you have to follow the moderator in the way the questions were posed. Once President Trump was rolling over them, and
It's certainly good comedy entertainment. I can agree with you there.
Violence and protests. I mean, it was really in the ballpark of the president, because he kept bringing things back to that issue and not letting Joe Biden answer a question. So by blowing it all up and running roughshod over everyone else, he didn't let
People ask what this country is coming to. I hope it's end.
last hour, perhaps 45 minutes, where Biden seemed to regain his footing. And the contrast was clear, but I've been watching debates, covering debates since 1976. I've never seen anything like this. I don't think any of us have. Compared to any debate in presidential history, this was a disgrace, frankly. And
Maybe he did.
the president just did not.
See, if I were president, I'd never get any. If I were Trump, I'd never get anything done, because that's all I'd be doing.
Other than trying to get a word in and trying to answer the questions that were asked.
Well, let me go to Hallie Jackson.
I busted a nut right before we started the stream.
The famous maxim inside Trump world is "Let Trump be Trump." He definitely was Trump, but even kind of a supersized version of himself. So whether or not that was part of the strategy, I'd like to hear you on whether or not the campaign was going in there with that.
I hope there's even more yelling in the sequel.
And he did have his opportunities. Did he make the most of them, or did he lose opportunities? A couple of things on that.
All right, folks. Any closing comments?
And the idea of letting Trump be Trump, as is so often said. Listen, the campaign.
You're very right. You need that post-nut clarity.
Wanted to see the president go on attack. That was part of what
they were coming into this with. Obviously, that happened. That was an incredibly aggressive Donald Trump.
I know, I saw that shit earlier. Like, fucking... They even made a comment, the other person, he was like, we have our people inside and outside. By the way, you'll notice, both wearing masks. It's like, oh, so you're both retarded. Good to know. Well, now that I know how to do it, I may do this more. Maybe a Q&A. Well, we could do a live Q&A instead of like a pre-recorded one.
As Chuck points out, there are some different moments that people who support President Trump are seizing on.
Bustin' Nut Tuesday. That's right, sir.
He came out and attacked. On the other hand, I think it is notable when we talk about the substance of this debate, a couple of points and things that the president simply did not say. It cannot go unnoticed that Joe Biden, the former vice president, directly called President Trump a racist. President Trump did not respond to that. The president was directly asked to denounce white supremacy and the Proud Boys. The president said, stand back and stand by.
He already denounced the white supremacists, bitch. I mean, I don't even like the cunt, but God, the way they rail on this fucker, there's so many legitimate things they could be bitching about, and they're worried about shit that never happened, or 2 scoops of ice cream. Like, come on, bitches, look at the big picture.
Much more intimate hall feeling, and that made it jarring, frankly, to see this chaos on the stage go down.
Oh, I guarantee I could get him to wear a skirt.
All right, let's bring in our guest, Rich Lowry, editor of the National Review, also Claire McCaskill, former Democratic senator from Missouri, both are NBC News.
All right, everybody, I'm doing the Nixon. I'm out. President Trump says goodbye as well and wants to thank you for tuning in to the debate. I hope you all enjoyed. I know I did. Now I'm about to go get more drunk. So,
in terms of the behavior,
peace out.
Is not being fair to Joe Biden. Donald Trump was a bully. He was non-presidential. He was, frankly, outrageous. It was